Leireyy, the Austrian Age of Empires player, has won RedBull Wololo 2. People call him the Kid, but we should now call him the King with this epic run, taking out many strong opponents. So this video, I'm just going to talk generally about RedBull Wololo 2 as a tournament, quickly in the beginning, and then after that, I'm going to go through each set that Leireyy won and talk about the run as a global run and breaking it down set by set. So RedBull Wololo 2 as a tournament. Again, another amazing tournament from RedBull. The production value, good for an esports event. So I'm just checking out my notes here on RedBull Wololo. Production value is good. I mean, it's online, so there's nothing on LAN. And I mean, online tournaments are not the easiest thing to run. There's always technical difficulties and stuff like that. There weren't too many bugs or hiccups in the broadcast, but the drops, that hurts the broadcast for sure when there's players dropping and stuff like that. It's not the best light on the game. So, I mean, in the future, if that could be corrected, for sure, that's going to help the broadcast. And I mean, there's a lot of like awkwardness with the caster also being the observer. So maybe like in other esports where they have dedicated observers, that might help alleviate that problem of having a dedicated broadcaster, and then the casters can just focus on casting. So I think those are some points on the broadcast itself for the tournament. Big shout out to the casters, keeping it light and humorous. I mean, that's sort of like the Age of Empires vibe. It's a really good vibe compared to like other esports that take themselves like too seriously. So that was just enjoyable to watch. Like, it's a good tournament. And you have Saturday Dave with Dave. I think he's one of my favorite casters now. He's always humorous and joking with the other casters. So that's always good to listen to. And I think that's something that the community should hang on to, is that style of Age of Empires tournaments. One big difference in this tournament was, of course, the way that the semifinals and finals were split up by that longer break. And that's one thing definitely worth highlighting. As someone who enjoys the competitive aspect of esports, and I've seen in other games, like a lot of CS:GO tournaments, they now do semifinals on a different day, or one per day. That makes a huge difference, I think, for the competitiveness of the tournament. Really good from RedBull to adapt between the RedBull 1 and RedBull 2 to add in that break. And I think that, honestly, the finals being as awesome as it was, it's a direct benefit from that break. For competitiveness, you need to have that separation between the semifinals and the finals. If I'm not mistaken, someone did an analysis for CS:GO of how many times the person who's playing the closest set to the finals loses, and it's if there's not a significant or big enough break, and it's like something crazy. Like, it's more than a statistical difference. It's something that can be quantified. I think that if you play a set in the semifinals too close to the finals, it sort of messes you up for the finals, and more often than not, you're at a huge disadvantage, more than just luck or statistical variance. So. And in this case, we got blessed with an amazing 7-game series in the final. So I think that, again, that break, absolutely necessary in the future, should always be there. And for other tournaments, they should probably take notes too, that you can't just jam-pack your schedule, and you're going to hurt the competitiveness of the tournament and the quality of your finals if you do it. And there's a lot of tournaments in CSGO, for example, where the semifinals were way more epic than the finals, and the finals was another blowout. So I think for avoiding blowouts, we need that little break and a little breather for the players. I'm sure that if they would comment on that, they would also appreciate the fact that they could take a little break too. Just, regroup before the final. So that's all I'm going to say on the tournament. Again, globally good production value, and that new break is awesome. Honestly, I don't think there's anything they could do to improve more than this, except for, like I said, maybe a dedicated observer. And I mean, the bracket and the seeding was pretty good. We got the same semifinal as in RedBull Wololo 1, just in a different order now. So it doesn't seem like the seeding really makes a big difference. And I mean, the only format that I could see them exploring, but I don't particularly see a reason right now to do it, but maybe a double elim tournament would be cool from the RedBull guys. But then that'd be a longer tournament. You can't just cram it into a weekend. But double elim would definitely be more like a GSL style, like StarCraft style tournament. And that might be something that's interesting to people. So now let's just hop in right now. I'm going to switch the screen over to the bracket. So this is a bracket, the final results for the tournament, and Leireyy here is right in the middle, and we can see his four set run. First Velez, then the Max, then the Viper, and then Hera in the final. So let's go set by set. and just talk over some points about what's the storyline through these sets. So in the first set against Velez, Leireyy picks Ethiopians, Khmer, Britons, Persians, Lithuanians, Tatars, and a Vikings pick. And I think that this Vikings pick is worth highlighting because he also picks it in the second set and in the third set. And I think he would have picked it in the fourth set if Hera hadn't picked Vikings. So Vikings were basically picked every single time because, you know, the strength of the Vikings was shown in RedBull Wololo 1. But in the first two sets, it was then immediately banned by his opponent. And I think that this played into Leirey's hand because Leireyy, when he takes the Vikings pick, okay, it's sort of like a bait, right? Like you're taking the pick and then your opponent goes and right away he bans it. Well, he's like kind of not focusing on the rest of your civs, but you look at the rest of the civs that Leireyy gets, like first series, he gets Ethiopians, Britons, Lithuanians, and Khmer. Those are like 4 super strong civs. Also, he has Persians if Cross comes out, and Tatars. So it's like his draft in the first series is amazing. Suits his style too. It's like an archer, aggressive civs. And at Britain's, I mean, Britain's tournament was like dominant civs. So I think that honestly, this draft from Velez was like pretty weak, and I think he took the bait of like banning the Vikings right away. And Leireyy, what does he do? He bans Mayans. I mean, it's a standard ban from him. Nothing to comment on there. Mayans is a strong civ. You might as well get them out of the way. And he takes the maps Cross and Atacama, which during the whole series you'll see will become sort of his home maps. He takes Atacama 3 times. He takes Habub 3 times. So both open, aggressive maps. And he takes Cross twice, and he plays in like this open, really aggressive, cool way of playing Cross. So like his map picks are there's definitely a difference between other players. He's always taking the open and aggressive maps. And I think that right off the bat, if I was playing Leireyy in the second set, like it's max in the second set, I think you really want to get a better draft than what you get. But yeah, so let's just focus on the first set for now. So he takes strong archer civ picks, and he does that fletching archer build with the range, and he's just always aggressive, really strong rating. I mean, there's nothing much that Velez can do here. He's often at a civ disadvantage, and he just closed it out with like that epic defense on Kawasan, where he's like microing and styling all over the Velez. So he just wrecked him on that last game, and closes out the series. Like I predicted, I think in the first, it doesn't really matter who he goes up in the second series. I predicted him going through the semifinal. So let's just quickly go over the second set against the Max, which ended up being a lot closer. The closest series that Leireyy plays before the finals. So Leireyy versus the Max. Now his civ picks are Berbers, Persians, Cumans, Lithuanians, Franks, Khmer, and the Vikings again got banned. And he bans the Magyars. I think he bans the Magyars because he's going to go again for like open maps. And then he's going to go... He doesn't want his opponent to have the advantage with the stronger scouts. So decent ban for the playstyle that he's going for. And again, I think he gets a really good draft for his playstyle. And he's like playing crossbows with Lithuanians. It's like, oh my god, just mind games the crap out of Max. And it's a game-ending move almost, like the commenters say. And again, there's no like he's playing against Aztecs, Britons, and the Mayans, and he ends up using the crossbows against the Mayans and denies them that victory, because I think that Max has to win with Mayans and Aztecs to win this series. And of course, he has Britons as well to secure off that win. So I think the one thing that I want to say about the second set, I think his draft was a little bit weaker than the first one, and that's why the series was a little bit closer, because Max has Aztecs, Britons, Mayans, and Saracens. There's like 4 super strong civs. And also Leireyy in the first set, he has this weird game against Cumans, and then he ends up picking Cumans in the second set, but can't pull off that like Cuman defense. He gets punished by the Saracen fast castle. So I think that maybe that's a little adjustment, maybe just trying it out. But the series ends up being really close because he doesn't get as good draft as in the first one. But overall solid. He takes out the Max. He moves on to the semifinals against the Viper. So now we're in the semifinals against the Viper. Viper seems to be sort of on a little bit of a weak trend these days. And Leireyy, I think, mechanically is above the Viper right now. With the injuries and whatever, we don't know what's going on with the Viper. So mechanically, I think he has an advantage going into this set. Okay. And Leireyy drafts Incas, Britons, Berbers, Persians, Huns, Magyars, and again the Vikings, which gets banned. So, and he bans in return the Khmer. So I think that these are all civs that suit his style. He gets another dream draft against the Viper. I think that this is like Britons is just like he's so good with Britons. He's way better than most people that he's matching up with, and I think that Britons against anybody else, any other player, and him playing them, it's a free win. So that's already like basically one game in the bag. I think he's so good with them with this archery range build. And then he has some other civs in his pocket. Berbers, super strong. Persians, if he takes cross, if cross comes up. Huns is a classic, and again Magyars is like Empire Wars. I think is Magyars and Empire Wars is super strong. Magyars in general are strong civ, but in Empire Wars are super strong because they're scouts. So he gets a good draft against the Viper and takes him out 3-1. I mean, in my prediction, I was talking about how the Viper, you know, you can't really bet against him. But when you think about it, like Leireyy, he's more on an uptrend right now. I think he has more momentum. I think Viper's losing a little bit of momentum, losing a little bit of steam. And Leireyy just looks so strong this tournament. So he takes out the Viper 3-1, moves on to the finals. So the first 3 sets, I think he just gets really good drafts and he just powers that through, except for maybe the second set against the Max, where he like I think the Max got a little bit of a better draft than he did. So he just has to power through and sort of styles on him with that crossbow attack, and then against the Mayans in that game, and then he moves on to the Viper, takes him out, moves on to the finals. So he's going to the finals. He takes out the Viper. I mean, if you take out the Viper, you're probably the favorite in the tournament, right? Like you're taking out the Viper. He's normally the statistical favorite for a tournament, so he's got to feel pretty good coming into this. Hera, your opponent, takes out the reigning champ from last tournament. So I think that going into the final, Leireyy has like a psychological advantage of, okay, I took out the tournament favorite, both tournament favorites in theory. You took out Yo and Viper, and you're coming up against Hera, who's sort of like a same mechanical skill as you, maybe a little bit mechanically more skilled than you. But I think that Leireyy was showing that his aggression in Empire Wars, I think it suits him a little bit better. Maybe Hera is better in random map Arabia 1v1, but Leireyy, I think in Empire Wars, it's just that aggressive style that he's so good at, and he punishes the mistakes from his opponents. So side note, I mean, Hera here on this bracket, he's got to be thinking like, okay, perfect. He's taken out the reigning champ. He took out the reigning champ from last tournament, and then his opponent in the final took out the Viper. The Viper is like, you know, the bane of Hera. He's always the one taking out Hera in tournaments. So it's kind of like in CSGO, like a Team Liquid situation where if someone takes out Astralis and you're Team Liquid, then you have to win the tournament. So I think that Hera had like a lot of pressure on him here, and he's probably feeling the pressure that like, okay, he's in the finals, but not only is he in the finals, but someone took out his main like rival, sort of, where in tournaments he always gets defeated by the Viper. Viper sort of has the upper hand on him. So he's going into this set playing the guy who already took out like your big rival. I think that adds an extra little pressure to win this set, because in theory, you should be winning this now. Like there's your main rival's gone, so it's just you and your mechanical skill. And I think people would rate Hera slightly higher than Leireyy in overall. I mean, like I said, because of her 1v1 Arabia. But yeah, and it's an amazing series, close series. It could have gone either way. But I think that there was a little bit of like extra pressure on Hera to win, because like I said, he takes out the champ, and then your rival's gone. So really tough. I think it's a tough mental spot for Hera here, and yeah. So moving on to Leireyy now in this final set. So what happens is I think Hera made a little mistake here in the draft, letting Leireyy get Britons. Like Hera had an amazing game against Yo with Britons, and I think that he should have picked into Britons here. I don't know exactly the details of the draft here, but I think that feels like a mistake. Leirey's too good with them. He's too dangerous with them, and I think that Hera definitely should have gone for that pick. Leireyy picks also Magyars, which in that last game he just, oh my god, he wrecks him with the Magyars. It's so strong, and Hera's put in a really awkward position where he kind of knows he's going up against Magyars, and he's not gonna have an easy answer against those scouts. So Leireyy gets also Lithuanians, Ethiopians, and yeah, I think that the draft slight advantage to Leireyy, just because he has three, like Magyars, Lithuanians, Britons, 3 really strong civs, and Aztecs too. Like Aztecs is super dangerous too. So I think that the draft slight advantage to Leireyy, but mainly because of that Briton pick. I think that's just, you can't let that go. I think if you're Hera and you want to take Britons, and Hera's also amazing with the crossbows, he should have had that pick, I think, and that would have been a win for him. So Leireyy goes for Haboob, Atacama, and Cross. Basically, the three maps of this tournament for him. Haboob and Atacama, very aggressive, very open, and Cross. And that's why, like, I think maybe Hera made a slight mistake with on the second game there. It was a little bit weird. That walling, like I see the idea of going for it, but it just plays in, I think, to Leirey's advantages, and is not necessarily maximizing like Hera's skills. And I think that Hera, like, he has the APM and he has the hands to defend an open base. I don't necessarily I would really like to see what he was going for there on that one. Trying to go for like that fast wall and close it off in game 2. So again, epic series. It's super tight all the way to the end. Game 3, I think game 3 has to be the game of the tournament, right? Like, it was so epic. It's that Indians against Saracens game on blockades, which is Hera's map pick. It's just back and forth, huge armies. I mean, there's micro, like Hera getting fancy with that micro, with that pikeman going in the TC and sniping. Like, there's micro, there's macro, there's awesome battles. So game 3, I think, for me, is one of the highlights of the series. It was awesome. And then like, I think it starts to fall apart for Hera where with the Britons against Mayans game. Like, that one, it just has to hurt that game, because Britons are strong, they're coming in hot, and then you have this like really awkward wood line, like a really awkward tight map with gold, like sort of being able to be pressured in the front, and then the archers are going to come, and I don't know, I just felt like that. And then the plumes coming out from Hera, I don't know if that was like a fake bait switch to try to bait Leireyy, or he had to do something to get some units out in Castlage. So, but yeah, that game just felt kind of weird, and I feel like that's when it's sort of like the momentum really switched, and you could feel Leireyy, like, you could see the power of him if you give him a good civ, and he's going to be super aggressive, and he's going to punish you. Like, every little mistake is going to punish you. So then, of course, they trade a game again. Then it goes to game 7, and just Leireyy just totally dominates him in game 7 with Magyars. It shows the power of Magyars, closes it out, and wins the series. So overall, I think like Leireyy had a really good drafting throughout the series, even in the final, except again set 2 against the Max, which ended up being, I think, a little closer than people would have expected. And I think if you would have had that Britons pick, it would have been less close. Yeah, and then what else to say about? So what does it say about Leireyy? I mean, definitely top 3 player right now. For everything that's 1v1 on open-ish maps like Arabia or the maps from Empire Wars, he's up there. He's definitely top 3. He's super mechanically skilled, and it's like a Hera type situation where they're younger than most of the pros. If you look at the age average on here, so they have lots of years to grow too. So I think that the growth potential on Leireyy and Hera, we're going to be seeing a lot of them, I think, in 2020 in the tournaments coming. They're super strong players, and they're going to get better. Like, you guys have to expect that they're going to get better. They're not in their prime yet. If you look at other esports, the prime is more like later in the 20s. And Mr. Yo and the Viper, it looks like they're a little bit on the decline here. I wouldn't rate Mr. Yo like super high. And with the Red Bull tournament, the other one not having that break, you got to wonder, like, how much did it affect the result, the fact that there was no break? Like, Yo is definitely top 5, but I don't think he's like either the second best in the world or like the third best in the world. Whereas I'd say Hera and Leireyy, like, there's no like, you put, they're both top 3. Like, Hera and Leireyy are both top 3, with the Viper probably still top 1, but it looks like Viper's losing a little bit of steam right now, and I think it's to be expected that Hera and Leireyy are gonna overtake him in, like, let's say next year. I think they're gonna be trading more tournaments and having a bigger rivalry than Viper with either of them individually.